Welcome back to Klepper's Corner, the only show where we turn the world's smoldering garbage pile into a glittering bonfire of bad decisions and then roast marshmallows over it. Today is July 19th, 2025. It's hot, it's tense, and just like every group text that includes your uncle and a conspiracy theory meme, it's about to get weird. Our headlines today include Donald Trump drawing suggestive birthday cards for Jeffrey Epstein, the Justice Department trying to clean up that mess with a very tiny mop, Israel and Syria playing ceasefire tag in a region so volatile it makes Twitter arguments look civil, and Jair Bolsonaro's coup trial, because apparently attempting to overthrow democracy is a regional pastime now. Oh, and Los Angeles got a surprise drive-by, courtesy of a Nissan Versa and the worst valet situation in Hollywood history. So let's dive into the chaos with our first segment. Segment 1, Trump sues the Wall Street Journal for $10 billion over Epstein letter. Yes, Donald Trump is suing the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch for a whopping $10 billion. And what's this all about? A birthday card. That's right, America is being held hostage by the world's worst Hallmark moment. The WSJ published claims that Trump sent Epstein a sexually suggestive birthday letter back in 2003, complete with a drawing. Trump denies it, saying, "These aren't my words. This isn't how I talk. Also, I don't draw pictures." Of course not. Trump doesn't draw. He just signed checks, usually to lawyers. Now, Trump is mad, like $10 billion mad. That's the kind of anger usually reserved for not getting 2 scoops of ice cream or being asked to use spell check. He calls the lawsuit a powerhouse move. Honestly, if Trump keeps suing every media outlet that publishes something embarrassing, the court calendar will be booked until 2097, right between Melania's escape memoir and Rudy Giuliani's trial for setting his hair on fire again. But let's take a moment to appreciate the irony. Trump is suing to protect his reputation by making everyone Google Trump Epstein birthday letter. Nothing screams damage control like printing the alleged slander in bold, underlined, and laminated. And Rupert Murdoch, he's being sued by the guy he helped elect. I haven't seen this much backstabbing since the last season of Succession. The real takeaway? This lawsuit is less about clearing Trump's name and more about showing media outlets that criticizing him could cost them billions. It's Trump's new business model. Make America litigious again. Segment 2, DOJ to unseal Epstein grand jury transcripts. Sort of, while Trump's suing the WSJ over Epstein's stories, his own Justice Department is trying to unseal Epstein grand jury transcripts because nothing says innocent like demanding total transparency while suing the people giving it to you. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said they'll release the grand jury transcripts after redacting personal info. So we'll get the juicy details just without names, dates, or anything identifying. Like reading a gossip magazine printed in Morse code. Why the sudden transparency? Because Trump's base lost its collective mind when they thought he was hiding Epstein stuff. You know it's bad when your biggest fans start treating you like you're the deep state. The DOJ says it wants to mitigate conspiracy theories. Good luck with that. Conspiracy theories don't die from lack of evidence. They multiply when you have evidence. The minute you release a redacted file, someone on Reddit turns it into a 14-hour YouTube video titled Epstein, Envelopes, and Elvis, the real truth they don't want you to know. And the cherry on this paranoia sundae, Trump is now simultaneously denying any Epstein connection and trying to unseal the very files that might contain Epstein connections. It's like lighting your house on fire and suing the fire department for getting the carpet wet. Segment 3, Los Angeles turns into a real-life Fast and Furious valet edition. Let's pivot to the West Coast, where Los Angeles witnessed the most chaotic scene outside a nightclub since the words cover charge were invented. A Nissan Versa barreled into a crowd waiting to get into the Vermont Hollywood nightclub, injuring 30 people, hitting a taco truck, a valet stand, and basically everything except the plot of A Reasonable Night Out. 3 people are in critical condition. The driver, he got shot by someone and then attacked by bystanders. Because this is America, and we settle things with bullets and fists in that order. Authorities are still trying to figure out whether he was shot before or after the crash. That's important because if it was before, we might be dealing with a targeted hit. If it was after, it was probably Los Angeles' version of Yelp. Apparently, a fight broke out outside the club before the crash, which honestly is just a Thursday in East Hollywood. It's LA. If there's not at least one fist fight, one food truck, and one influencer crying on the sidewalk, is it even nightlife? People poured out of the club to help victims, which is nice. Usually the only thing that pours out of an LA nightclub is a DJ who peaked in 2014 and a girl saying, "I know the owner." What's clear is that nightclub security is going to need an upgrade. Maybe add car insurance to the cover fee. And can we please stop building taco trucks next to crowded sidewalks? It's not worth sacrificing both your ribs and your carnitas. Segment 4, Israel and Syria ceasefire for now. All right, so Israel and Syria have agreed to a ceasefire. Again, because nothing says lasting peace like a promise made in a room full of diplomats who all brought their own airstrikes. This all started when a Druze vegetable merchant in Suwaida province got robbed by some Bedouin tribesmen. Next thing you know, it's full-blown tribal warfare. Syrian troops roll in, Israel bombs those troops, and the UN considers this a slow news week. 321 people dead, including medics, women, and children. But sure, let's keep pretending this region is just one more summit away from a sandals resort. Israel's justification, they say they were defending the Druze minority, which is true, also convenient. It's like saying you're crashing your ex's wedding to stop her from marrying someone you don't like for her own good. And then there's the new Syrian president, Ahmed al-Sharaa. He's like the substitute teacher who shows up to class already on fire. His troops allegedly committed abuses against the Druze, which earned them Israeli airstrikes and an international timeout. Now, Israel's allowing Syria back into Suwaida, but only for 48 hours. It's not a ceasefire, that's a courtesy call. Like, you can come back, but we're watching, and also bombing. And let's talk about the United States. We're involved, of course, because nothing screams American foreign policy like jumping into another country's tribal conflict with the confidence of someone who's read half of a Wikipedia article. The UN wants accountability. Syria wants control. Israel wants security. And everyone else just wants to figure out who to blame next. Spoiler alert, it's probably still Assad's ghost. Bottom line, if this is peace, I'd hate to see what a bad week looks like. Segment 5. Trump says more hostages will be freed from Gaza soon. Again, President Trump announced that 10 more hostages will be released from Gaza very shortly. Which, if you've been following this saga, means maybe next Tuesday, maybe never, but definitely on Truth Social, before it's confirmed by anyone credible. He praised his envoy, Steve Witkoff, which sounds less like a diplomat and more like a hedge fund manager who accidentally wandered into a war zone with a sandwich and a smile. These hostage talks have been going on since July 6 in Doha under a U.S.-backed 60-day ceasefire plan. For those keeping score, that's 60 days of maybe, 45 days of probably not, and 15 days of, oh look, we're bombing again. Here's the pitch. Hamas gives back 10 hostages and the bodies of 18 more. In return, Israel releases some Palestinian detainees. It's like a grim political version of trading baseball cards where nobody wants the cards, but everyone needs to prove they have them. Hamas, of course, wants a full package deal, which sounds like something you hear in a massage parlor that definitely doesn't advertise on Yelp. But let's not forget the grim backdrop. Over 58,000 Palestinians dead. Over 1,600 Israelis and foreign nationals killed. And we're here cheering over 10 hostages because that's what passes for progress now. 10 lives saved in a sea of tragedy. So yes, there's hope, but let's not pretend this is a game changer. It's a slow drip in a flood. We're watching two sides negotiate over pieces of a broken mirror while everyone around them bleeds. And still, Trump's out here talking about imminent breakthroughs like he's selling timeshares in Baghdad. At this point, if he announced peace between Coke and Pepsi, I'd still wait for the press release. Segment 6. Europe tells Iran, show us something real or sanctions are back. Ah, yes, the Iran nuclear deal. Or as it's now known, the world's most tense group chat. The UK, France, and Germany, aka the E3, told Iran they better show some concrete results by the end of August or face snapback sanctions. What are snapback sanctions? Think of it like a cosmic Uno reverse card that slaps Iran with all the punishments they thought they dodged. The deadline to trigger this expires in October, so if the E3 wants to act, they've got to hit the button by September 3rd. Because nothing screams effective diplomacy like get it done before Labor Day. Iran, of course, said, sure, we'll talk, but only if the U.S. promises we can enrich uranium. The U.S. in turn said, absolutely not, which is Washington speak for, are you high? Meanwhile, Israeli and American airstrikes already destroyed much of Iran's enrichment program. So now Iran's arguing for the right to do something they physically can't do anymore. It's like demanding to be allowed to drive a car that's currently a flaming wreck in a ditch. Also, Iran has cut off cooperation with the IAEA. That's the International Atomic Watchdog. You know, the group that checks to see if your nukes are actually nukes or just suspiciously glowing IKEA parts. The bottom line here is that diplomacy is stalling, military strikes are increasing, and the odds of a peaceful solution are circling the drain like a radioactive rubber ducky. And if no agreement is reached and snapback sanctions aren't triggered, well, then the JCPOA, the already fragile nuclear deal, dies for real. And we get to watch another round of Who Wants to Be a Regional Superpower, starring everyone with a drone and a grudge. Segment 7, Bolsonaro's coup trial nears verdict, and Trump jumps in with a tariff. Let's close with Brazil, where former President Jair Bolsonaro is on trial for attempting a coup. You know, as one does after a disappointing election and a few too many Red Bulls. Prosecutors say he plotted to declare a state of emergency, hold new elections, and even assassinate President Lula. Bolsonaro calls it a shameful farce, which is also how most people describe his presidency. If convicted, he could face 40 to 43 years in prison. That's longer than it takes to get through a Bolsonaro family reunion without someone yelling socialism. And of course, Trump came to the rescue, because fascist bromance never sleeps. He called the trial a witch hunt and threatened Brazil with a 50% tariff. That's right, Trump is now using international trade policy to defend another country's accused insurrectionist. President Lula replied like a grown-up, "We'll retaliate if needed. We're not your colony." And somewhere in the background, a Brazilian economist just started sobbing into a caparina. This trial isn't just about Bolsonaro. It's about what happens when democracy gets treated like a game show. We're watching an ex-president being tried for trying to overthrow the government. Meanwhile, his buddy in the U.S. is live streaming from a golf cart while calling journalists pedophiles. But hey, at least they're consistent. The whole thing is like the real authoritarians of the Americas. No rose ceremony, just subpoenas and sanctions. In conclusion, so what did we learn today, folks? We learned that Donald Trump has finally weaponized birthday greetings. Forget cake, he's serving lawsuits with extra frosting. Nothing warms the heart like a $10 billion libel suit over a crayon drawing that may or may not have come from the darkest corner of your middle school notebook. Meanwhile, the Justice Department is doing the public transparency cha-cha, one step forward, two redactions back, because when it comes to Epstein, apparently no one wants to open the vault, but everyone keeps poking the lock with the spoon. In Los Angeles, it's now officially safer to be on the freeway than waiting in line for a nightclub taco. A Nissan Versa turned Hollywood nightlife into a twisted GTA side quest and reminded us all that maybe parking lots should come with blast shields. In Syria, we have a ceasefire in the same way someone stops choking you just long enough to ask if you've learned your lesson. Israel and Syria traded bombs, then paused for a humanitarian break so they can reload without feeling too guilty. In Gaza, Trump keeps promising hostages will be released any day now. He said it so often, I'm starting to think any day now is just a new fiscal quarter. His envoy, Steve Witkoff, has apparently upgraded from real estate to negotiating with terrorists. Talk about transferable skills. Iran is being told by the EU to knock it off with the uranium or get slapped with snapback sanctions. In response, Iran unplugged its cooperation with the IAEA, muttered something about dignity, and then got bombed by Israel anyway. Diplomacy in 2025 is basically a group project where everyone stopped replying in the chat 3 months ago, and now we're all winging it. And finally, Bolsonaro may go to prison for trying to overthrow Brazil's government, an act that's no longer shocking, just kind of expected at this point. Naturally, Trump got involved again, not with facts or evidence, but with threats of 50% tariffs because nothing says friendship like tanking someone else's economy in their hour of legal need. If you're wondering what unites all of this, it's not ideology or geography. It's that leaders around the world are increasingly acting like YouTubers, suing, shouting, monetizing, and live streaming their own scandals while everyone else gets whiplash just trying to keep up. We've got lawsuits that double as campaign speeches, ceasefires held together by chewing gum and geopolitical guilt, and high-stakes negotiations that feel more like middle school cafeteria trades. I'll give you 3 hostages and a ceasefire if you give me back my dignity and a Snickers. So here's your reminder that democracy, justice, and international diplomacy are not spectator sports, unless you're watching this show, in which case they totally are, and we'll be here with popcorn and a snarky grin. Whether it's Trump drawing birthday cards of doom, Epstein's shadow haunting the Justice Department, or Jair Bolsonaro trying to start a coup with all the finesse of a drunk karaoke performance, we'll keep peeling back the layers of madness so you don't have to. Until next time, stay skeptical, stay sane, and please, for the love of all that is holy, don't get into any cars outside a Hollywood nightclub, or into lawsuits with Rupert Murdoch, or hostage negotiations with Steve Witkoff. Good night and good luck. We're all going to need it.